This is Punk Rock and Politics, and today is July 11th, 2017, and this is episode number 30. Let's do this!
These days are strange, it's true.
I would bomb the shit out of them.
If you think that punk rock doesn't mix with politics, you're wrong.
Welcome to Punk Rock and Politics. Today we'll be talking to singer and guitarist Emma Oakley from the band President Sam about the Richmond Virginia music scene, America's crumbling infrastructure, and the Flint water crisis. Then on Open Mic's Last Call, we'll talk about the G20 meeting and the Syria ceasefire agreement. So let's get to the political mosh pit. But first, here's the news of the week.
Here's what's making news.
Those are some of the sounds from the protests at the G20 in Hamburg, Germany. President Trump went overseas for his second trip as president, where he claimed everyone was talking about John Podesta. But the G20 is an economic summit where the world's richest nations and central bank governors discuss trade, globalization, as well as wars. And while the mainstream media talked about body language, Trump talked to world leaders and once again said Mexico will pay for the wall.
It's great to be with my friend, the president of Mexico, and we're negotiating NAFTA and some other things with Mexico, and we'll see how it all turns out. But I think we've made very good progress, so it's great to be with you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Trump, do you still want Mexico to pay for the wall?
Thank you all.
President Trump also met with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
We appreciate it. President Putin and I have been discussing various things, and I think it's going very well. We've had some very, very good talks. We're going to have a talk now, and obviously that will continue. But we look forward to a lot of very positive things happening for Russia, for the United States, and for everybody concerned. And it's an honor to be with you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
The meeting lasted 2.5 hours, and they reportedly talked about a wide array of subjects, including the Russian hacking of the 2016 election. Here is Sergio Lavrov.
President Trump said that he had heard President Putin's clear statements that this isn't true and Russia didn't interfere in these elections, and that he accepts these statements.
And the United States' response was from Secretary of State Rex Tillerson.
The president pressed President Putin on more than one occasion regarding Russian involvement. President Putin denied such involvement, as I think he has in the past. The two leaders agreed, though, that this is a substantial hindrance in the ability of us to move the Russian-U.S. relationship forward, and agreed to exchange further work regarding commitments of non-interference in the affairs of the United States and our democratic process, as well as those of other countries.
Oh, I'm sure verbal warning will work. And they also came to an agreement on a partial Syria ceasefire. But will it last? And more on that at the end of the program. In 2015, the city of St. Louis raised the minimum wage to $10 an hour, but now a Missouri state law will go into effect preventing cities in that state from setting their own minimum wage separate from the state's. So the city of St. Louis will now have to lower its minimum wage from $10 an hour to $7.70. On this day in rock history, July 11th, 1977 was the opening night of the punk venue The Vortex Club in London, England. Some of the bands on the opening lineup was Adam and the Ants and The Slits. And that's the news of the week! Typically, when we have new bands on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast, they're a little rough around the edges, still trying to discover and define their sound. But today's featured band, President Sam, definitely doesn't have that problem. They have a tight and solid sound for only being an official band for a few months now. They released their first demo titled Sounds Like Summer in February 2017. President Sam is a 5-piece pop-punk band who strive to push the envelope of genres that have influenced them, as they intertwine the familiar into something that sounds new and fresh. The rock undertones topped with catchy vocal melodies get you sucked in, but they keep you listening with smooth transitions into their acoustic verses with a slight edge. And I was able to talk to vocalist Emma Oakley from the band, but before we get to the interview, here's Dark Romances by President Sam. And that was Dark Romance by President Sam. And I have Emma from the band here joining us on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast. What's up, Emma?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us here on the podcast. I digged your song, or your music and everything. It's very solid.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And so we have on the rest of the band, it's Mason.
Mason, yeah.
Mason, Rick, Jacob, and Sam. So do you want to say what they all play and everything?
Yeah, so Mason Lloyd, he is the bassist and kind of the co-front man. He and I, we both sing a fair portion of the songs. It's mostly me on the EP, but actually our live show is pretty split even. And we co-write. We co-wrote pretty much everything on the Sounds Like Summer EP. Sam Partridge is the drummer. That's where the name kind of comes from.
Okay.
Jacob is the guitarist. He has actually only been with us for a little over a year, so he's fairly new. And Rick actually, he is on this EP, Sounds Like Summer. So most of the lead tracks that you hear are Rick, but he is no longer with us. He got a promotion at his job and decided, couldn't continue the band thing. So
right.
So we have Tim Fogg with us now, playing guitar as well. He's not an official member, but he's kind of filling in for the summer so we can do some tours and stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you guys are touring, and you're located out of Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool, awesome. And so you said it was Jacob. He's only been with you guys for a year. How long have you been playing together? Because your sound is very tight, but it doesn't seem like you guys have been playing for that long together.
Yeah, so I think the band has officially been a project for about 3 years, but it actually started as a side project to a band that we were all in high school called Hot Airfare. And so after high school, a couple of the members from that band, going to college and everything, just kind of split us up. And the people that were in President Sam were still together, so we started to take it a little more seriously. But we didn't really take it seriously until we decided to get this EP recorded, which we released in February of this year. So I still wouldn't have even considered us a serious project until then.
Right. Yeah, because I was trying to do a little background history and stuff on the band, and there wasn't too much, but the EP that you're mentioning, that all the music that we're playing today comes from, the EP, it sounded really solid, very tight. You had a sound already, which usually doesn't come when a band is just putting out their first EP. So I was like, wow, it's really, you guys have a very nice sound oriented. So it totally makes sense that you guys were playing in another band previously to this. So that definitely makes a lot of sense. Cool, right on. So how's the scene out there in Richmond? You said you guys are playing some shows?
Yeah, so we're actually not playing in Richmond, I don't think, at all this summer. At least not until late August. But, we were playing in Richmond at least once a month since we released this EP. I love the Richmond scene. The Richmond scene is really booming with music, I think, especially because of the VCU music program, which I'm a jazz guitar major at VCU.
Cool.
So,
and that's the college there.
Yes, yeah, Virginia Commonwealth University.
Cool.
Which is half of the city.
Right.
Yeah, so I think the music scene is it's really diverse. There's a lot of folk. There's a lot of house venue type things. Big house venue scene, actually.
Wow.
And
awesome.
It's really cool. And the house venue scene is really interesting because there's punk rock and also noise projects that are really
experimental type stuff.
Yeah, very.
That's almost a kind of a good thing to have when you have a huge house like scene like that, where people have to put on a DIY shows and do it in their house or rent out a venue, because that almost shows that the scene needs more venues. It needs more music venues to play. Is that kind of the case? Or it's just people enjoy doing the house show kind of vibe thing?
I think it's all of that.
Right.
I actually interned at the Camel for a little bit, and after the Camel is a smaller, I think it's 150 cap, but it's one of the more prominent venues in Richmond. And after working there and also just my experience with booking President Sam for things, I would argue that there are too many venues for Richmond because shows are just so split, but also there are too many bands. So we still need the venues. In Richmond, I'm still finding out about bands that I have like this Excel spreadsheet that I kind of log all the bands I know of in Richmond for booking purposes for us, and if I experiment with booking myself.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And I'm still finding bands that like have well over 1,500 likes on Facebook that I've never heard of, and they're based out of Richmond.
Wow.
From various genres. And I've been doing this. I mean, I've been doing music myself and in the Richmond music scene for at least 5 years pretty continuously. So it blows my mind that there's still like major bands like that I'm not hearing of until now.
Wow. That's really interesting. Usually the larger bands are kind of like very well known, but that's kind of a cool thing to happen.
Right. Yeah. It's not like, I saw you guys did an interview with Something More. Is that right?
Yeah.
So,
Maryland.
Baltimore.
They're from Maryland. Yeah.
Right. Baltimore is fairly close to us, so I know a little bit about their scene, and the major names that I can tell you from that are like only like Something More and Chris Swartz. I think Skyward Story is from there too. And Myrtle Beach. I only know one band from Myrtle Beach. So it's not like that in Richmond.
Right.
There are tons of huge bands in Richmond.
Wow, that's awesome.
Huge is, I guess, a relative term, but there are tons of successful bands in Richmond.
Yeah. I did have a recent interview with a funk guitarist who he toured with George Clinton and everything, Mike Gales, and he currently lives and is located out of Richmond. So it's definitely something's going on in Richmond, Virginia, and it's like you said, the college and just kind of. Sometimes things just happen in certain areas at certain times that creates a big flow of musicians and musical talent. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
But let's check out one more of your songs before we hop into the political mosh pit. So this is a great song to go into the political mosh pit. This is Government by President Sam. And that was Government by President Sam. So, I like the lyric, blame it on the government. So, so like as we get into the political mosh pit here, so something that the government it does do, it builds roads and maintains water systems and the infrastructure. So, a lot of people would argue like lately that the government is kind of lacking and not doing a good job in this regard. Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I agree. There's a website called America's Infrastructure Report Card. Actually, it's just infrastructurereportcard.org. That kind of every year updates and gives a grade. And if you go to the website, it'll show you what the grading is based off. But America's grade as a whole right now is a D+.
Oh wow! I knew it'd be bad, but I didn't think that bad. Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you go to the website, there's actually it breaks down individual states. And it breaks down each kind of section of infrastructure, roads, energy, etc., and grades each of them separately as well. So obviously in some areas we're doing better than others. Overall, as a D, though, I think is pretty terrible, especially, considering we're like a world power.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like a lot of this infrastructure that we even have is kind of like relics from our parents and our grandparents' time. The interstate freeway was built in the 1950s. And then, the power grid and a lot of the trains, those go back even more like 100 years ago. So we're totally not up to speed on creating the infrastructure and keeping it up to the rest of the world. So it would be really interesting to look at that and kind of see some of the richer communities versus the lower income. I know you were saying you're familiar with like Flint, Michigan, with what was going on there with the water crisis and everything. Of course, because they're a lower income community, I'm sure they were more easily targeted. Let's put it that way.
So the low income and crime rate aspect really affects business and infrastructure in a city. And I think comparatively, like Flint and Richmond, Richmond was the nation's murder capital for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
And Flint is up there in violent crime rates as well. I can't remember exactly where they're rated.
Mm-hmm. And this is all per capita so like the percentage. So, because some people would argue, a larger city like Chicago would have more crime. Sure, they may have more shootings, but the percentage of how many people are shot or killed in crime versus how it's the per capita. So, yeah, exactly. So that's how these smaller towns can get up so high on these lists.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Flint is really close to Detroit.
Okay, so they have kind of like an off, flow.
Right. Although it is a smaller city, it's like, it's still really close to Detroit. But yeah, so here's, as being a Richmond citizen, I guess I technically live about 15 minutes outside of Richmond. So,
okay, yeah.
But I'm a VCU student, so I'm in Richmond all the time.
Yeah. And you vote, so like.
Yeah. So I think Richmond is a prime example of why updating infrastructure is really important. For example, they were the nation's murder capital. It was a while ago, I think late 80s. But over the past 20 years or so, Richmond has really invested in updating infrastructure, investing in the college, investing in the police force, which I know is a hot topic.
It's a touchy subject.
Now.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast we could do.
Right.
Yeah.
But so a big thing is the infrastructure, which when you update infrastructure, you invite businesses.
Yes.
When people are starting a business in the city, they are investing themselves in their business in the city as well. So they care more, which means they care more about the crime rates. And so Richmond has greatly declined. I mean, I'm a VCU student. I'm there every day of the school year, and I feel completely safe, at least walking around campus. There's still some areas that are moderately scary. But I think it's a prime example of why infrastructure is really important.
Right. And also, like you were saying, you're totally right. It's about the economy. It's a larger circle. And then, like you're saying, the business owners, they get a business and they're invested in the community, but they also create jobs. And then that gives jobs to the college students who now they have money to go and buy stuff and pump it back into the economy. And then, it's a cycle, essentially.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's part of why I was interested in, Flint and the water crisis is, of course, now that there's been a water crisis, no one is investing in that city.
Exactly. Yeah, it's almost kind of like a downward spiral. And I talked about this previously to another artist, and it was kind of like crazy that it was such a hot topic in the 2016 elections, and then now it's just the news doesn't talk about it, no one really addresses it, but it's still totally going on.
Yeah, I mean, it always is.
Yeah, and not just Flint, Michigan. I mean, it's all over America. I know here in Southern California, this is Southern California, where there's lead that is coming up in some school drinking fountains. So they want to have to go and test all the water for lead because at elementary schools, some of these drinking fountains are coming up with lead. And it's like you were saying, we used to be the world superpower. How did we get to this point?
Right.
Do you think, in your opinion, and then also the website and everything, is it we just haven't invested in these things? And like you said, Richmond, they started really investing, what was that, in the 80s?
I would imagine.
Or probably in the 90s or so, if it was like 20
Yeah, I would imagine
ago.
early 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think really making the investment back into the community, but the problem is usually getting the money to do the investing usually comes with cutting programs in other areas or raising taxes. Right. And people usually don't want to raise taxes. So I don't see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, which all of those are perfect points as to why infrastructure is a topic that gets pushed back.
Yeah.
Which I think is very relatable to anyone that's ever, if you've owned a house, if you've tried to maintain a house, you have
expensive.
to continue. Yeah. You have to continually update things in your house, or
Yeah, it's going to start breaking, and then once it breaks, and once the mold catches in, and once the roof starts falling in, then the repair on that far exceeds what you could have done just originally to go fix the problem in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things where it's like, well, if my AC is broken at the moment and I don't really have money to fix my AC, maybe that's something that I can live with, I can push off. Mm-hmm. Which I think is, that's a microcosm for what is happening in America. Like, we can live with some potholes in our roads so that we can, put money into education or whatever.
Yeah. Speaking of potholes, I'm over here in Southern California, and there's potholes every road, everywhere you go, and it's crazy because we're tourism. That's our number one, really our big moneymaker, and yet the roads are just so horrible with all these potholes, and that goes back to what you're saying. It's the local government who's like, well, let's push off it for a little bit because we don't have the money, which is kind of crazy because the economy is, supposedly growing, and another recession will come about. It's only a matter of time. So if we got to step up and do this investing kind of quick, don't you think?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as with many other things in government, it's all a just massive catch-22.
Yeah, and I know, and that's, bringing it more over to the politics side, and whether you do support Trump or don't support Trump, he did propose a $1 trillion infrastructure bill, which a lot of people were excited about. I don't support him, but I was excited about that. But now that he's in office, he's not really talking about that so much, and all of what he does want to do is more privatization and less regulation, more privatization, which is basically what created, like we were talking about, what created Flint in the first place.
Right.
So,
yeah, I'm not too familiar with Trump's policies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they change every day. So, I mean,
right.
So you don't have to be familiar with it because, I mean, once you get familiar with whatever he's saying, he's going to change his tune a few days later. So, I mean, that's not a big deal. But you definitely nailed it right on the head with the what was it, D plus or D minus rating?
Yeah, it's a D plus.
D plus, yeah, that's just
D
crazy.
plus for the nation.
Yeah, and see, if we don't start doing this investing, which it's kind of like getting a tooth fixed or something, you know, because here we are, we're letting our roads just be destroyed, and then these bridges are literally crumbling as people are driving across them, and this is hurting the commerce and hurting people to travel to other places. So, like you were saying, once you invest, you bring business owners, and you're able to move product over the roads for cheaper, and that's kind of, I mean, that's how our system is based. As long as we live in a capitalistic based system, that's what we need. And it blows my mind that, you know, far right Republicans or conservatives who are capitalists, they don't understand that, but they would want to do private corporations and do toll roads. I know out here there's not very many toll roads on the West Coast, but there's a bunch of toll roads out there on the East Coast. Like, how do you feel about privatization doing it, or government? What's your opinion? And toll roads?
Toll roads suck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's funny. We actually were in Virginia Beach area last weekend, and Sam, our drummer, he's actually my boyfriend too. We've been together for 3.5-ish years. So
nice. Congratulations.
We were just kind of taking a road trip, and he decided he wanted to go across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, which is a $15 toll for one way.
$15? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, San Francisco I thought was bad. It's like $1.50 for the Oakland Bridge. But wow, 15, oh my gosh. That's just one way. So you have to pay it coming back, right?
Right. Now, we just went, they do have like a turnaround thing, so you can go almost to the end and then turn around and come back. So that's what we did. To be fair, this bridge tunnel, I think it's 28 miles. I'm not entirely sure if that's correct. 18 or 28, something like that. And it's 3 bridges and 2 tunnels. It is literally a work of art.
Wow,
I think Sam was telling me something about there's only like 10 of them, 10 bridges, you know, that are relatively similar to this one, and 4 of them are on the East Coast or something like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is pretty awesome. So they did a private corporation build that road, and then they're using that money to repay them, or they own it, or was it the government who like leased it and then they're trying to recoup their funds? Do you know by any chance?
I don't actually. Yeah. I should. I have a book about it.
Yeah, because I know sometimes, like over here on the West Coast, they'll do it for a bridge to repay the bridge, but then once it's repaid, they keep doing the toll, and it's kind of like, well, where's the money going now? So I'd be curious to see. Wow, what's that tunnel? What is that called again?
The Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're familiar with Virginia's coast at all. Probably not too much.
No, not too much, no.
There's a peninsula that actually connects, or peninsula that is actually split between Delaware, Virginia, and Maryland, and each state owns like a little part of it. And the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel connects the mainland over to that peninsula.
Okay.
From like the Newport News area. Mm-hmm. The peninsula that has like Chincoteague Island and Assateague on it.
Okay, so there's like people, there's a city and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, so if anyone who lives on that city, if they want to leave their town or their area, I mean, they're essentially paying $30 to go get out of there and go back.
I would imagine that they have there's a big, I know, like fishing economy over there. So I would imagine that if that was the case, they might have some sort of like year pass
or a monthly like fast pass that you pay X amount. But still that's money that you're paying. Like we're saying, back to the original point, that's money that you're paying one way or another, either it's going to come out of your taxes and you're going to pay it in some sort of tax, or you're going to pay it directly on point with the, with the bridge toll, which, each side I think has their positive and negatives, and that is to be debated at a further date in a podcast. But I would have to say it's kind of unfortunate because it seems like we're not doing either, because our country, the two political sides are so ideologically split that they don't want to work together and do some sort of hybrid model or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's funny, to bring it all the way back.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of what that line "blame it on the government" in our song "Government" is about.
Okay.
Is like, it's just about blaming all of this stuff that has nothing to do with the government on the government, and just not taking responsibility for like your own actions, and people butting heads so much that we don't actually make any progress.
Yes.
And that's where that line came from. Is, I was thinking about all of those things, and I just thought the line "blame it on the government" as a like satirical kind of thing, especially talking about a relationship which really has nothing to do with government, was a funny thing to do.
Yeah, well, that was kind of a meme for 8 years or so when Obama was in office, and the right was the resistance movements, and everything was it's Obama's fault. That was
right.
kind of so that's kind of the that's the joke. So I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have to break everything down now in such simplistic logos or terms or memes almost, like that. It's like, it's too complicated to have a long dialogue about what is better and the intricacies of a law and how it works.
For sure. It's all about the soundbite.
Yeah. The soundbite, the big headline, the clickbait, that's what it's all about. So, but
exactly.
I think sadly enough, that's our culture we're in, and we're going to have to navigate the sea going forward. So, but
for sure.
Yeah. Well, Emma, thanks so much for coming on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast. I really enjoyed all the factoids and everything. That was awesome. Thanks for bringing that.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, one more thing before you run. So, your band, President Sam, what's the best place for people to find all your music online?
The number one place to find out about music and, what shows we'll be playing and whatnot would be Facebook. We keep our Facebook page updated super regularly. So it's facebook.com/President Sam RVA. R for Richmond, VA for Virginia. Mm-hmm. And all of our other social medias, as well as Bandcamp, are also going to be under President Sam RVA.
Yeah, and you guys have all your musics over there on Bandcamp, and that's where all the songs for this demo that I'm playing on this episode are from. So if you like them, definitely go check it out. And one more question: Are you guys working on more songs? Are you working on a full-length album right now?
We are working on more songs. Not sure about a full-length.
Right, I don't want to overwhelm you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we should be hopefully releasing a music video this summer. Definitely doing some more touring. Got some really cool tours to announce soon. And then we will be going back into the studio this fall. Nice.
We're definitely looking forward to the new songs and going out and touring and using those governmentally funded and toll roads out there while you guys are out on tour, So thanks again for joining the Punk Rock and Politics podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And here is Brilliant Nights by President Sam.
Silence has a way with words, and I have a way of getting hurt. Time buzz away like birds, and I've got a tendency to be a flirt with everything that isn't real. And that mentality is hard to feel, and you lost me in September. Look ahead, it sounds like summer, like brilliant nights. So tell me I'm a runner, run away with me. Oh, I believe I'll go ahead and win a pointless fight and break down a boundary that doesn't seem right. 'Cause I believe, oh, I believe.
give it up for President Sam and Emma Oakley for coming on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast. That's pretty cool. They're really tight, that band. I was listening to their music again. It's really good, especially for them only being around for, or together as a band for just a few months. So that's awesome. I really, I'm looking forward to hearing more of their music and seeing what develops with them. So that's going to be really cool. So that's always fun, watching new bands and hearing new bands. And usually it takes them like 2 albums or so, really to create a sound. But I feel like that band, President Sam, I feel like they kind of already have their sound, kind of going, and they're going to just refine it, better. So, they're like one step ahead of normal. So that's awesome. So, all right. Well, welcome to Open Mic's Last Call, the very end of the program. Congratulations for making it this far in the podcast to the very end. So, all right. What are we going to talk about today? Oh man, this week was kind of crazy. Not too much with news all around, but mainly the main focus was all on the G20. In Germany, there was massive protests. The Intifada and the Black Bloc basically just totally destroyed that entire city, Hamburg. And it's... I totally agree with why they're protesting and what they are doing. But once they start, burning buildings and looting, and it's hard to support it. It looks so bad. However, you also have to go and look. A lot of the things that capitalism does is bombing and killing and invading other countries, and that capitalism and the military-industrial complex pushes just as much killing and death and murder. I mean, way more than, the Black Bloc or Intifada on the streets burning down a Starbucks. But the thing is, the people, the Intifada who are going to be on Fox News, who are burning down a Starbucks, that looks a lot worse because the news is going to cover that, and the news isn't going to cover, the U.S. dropped 20 bombs on, out of drones and killed all these families. I mean, maybe it'll be reported somewhere on Reuters or the New York Times, back page, or, Washington Post probably will cover it now that Trump's president. But back when Obama was president, no one would really cover that. So, yes, the military-industrial war complex moves on. So Trump and Putin had a meeting in the G20. So what came out of this was a ceasefire, and it was basically brokered with the United States, Russia, and Jordan. And it was kind of like a de-escalation agreement. And, when I first heard about it on the news and on the radio, I heard, ceasefire agreement reached with Trump and Putin over Syria. This is a huge, good, real great thing for Trump. Good job. And it's like, then once I went and started reading about it and looking into all the different news sources, every news source that I could look at, and reading about it, it's not really that big of a deal. It's just a de-escalation of forces in the southwestern area of it, basically around Damascus. And recently, Assad has had a lot of gains, especially up in Aleppo. They took the city back, and then out in Damascus, specifically earlier in the year, and I believe not too long ago, he went out and would walk the streets, and kind of like show that, it's safe, which, it's not really safe out there, but he would do that just kind of to show that he is feeling comfortable. And that's because the Russian coalition with the Assad government, they've basically been pushing back a lot of these proxy fighters that are supplied by the United States and the other the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia. So now that all these factions are kind of they're doing a ceasefire basically to bring in humanitarian purposes, humanitarian aid, get some more of any injured civilians out of that area. But also, it really seems like it's just basically another excuse for Iran and Hezbollah to basically ship in more weapons, more fighters, and for America to ship in more weapons and more fighters, under ISIS or under whatever the Free Syrian Army, whatever moniker they're battling under this month. So it kind of just seems like this is a timeout. Let's push more weapons and help the few people who are injured out in there. So, I'm sure it's not going to last very long because this type of deal was negotiated, exact same deal was negotiated with John Kerry and Sergei Lavrov, the same Russian foreign defense minister who negotiated this deal with Tillerson and Trump. So I really don't think, maybe he'll hold off. As we're recording this now, it's been, I think about 10 hours or 12 or about 14 hours since the ceasefire started and it's holding. So who knows when the podcast comes out, it'll be about a day and a half or so. So we'll see if the ceasefire actually holds. I seriously have my doubts because it hasn't been able to hold before. But who knows? We'll see. I'm all about pushing peace. And if this is a small way to get there, let's do it. But I'm skeptical, to say the least. And also another thing, Trump wants to work with Russia. Now he's saying, oh, we've done this. Now we want to move forward and working with Russia and work with cybersecurity. Oh man, wow. Even if Russia didn't hack the election, or if they did hack the election, either just put that on the back burner, that whole debate. But come on, work with Russia on cybersecurity. Come on, they're one of the people, them and China are one of the countries that are hacking us constantly. Why would you work with them with cybersecurity? I understand not wanting to start a world war, but you don't also get in bed with someone like that. So that's just like, oh my God, Trump, that sounds so bad, and it's going to only fuel your critics, and your poor allies are going to have to try to figure out. I can't wait to hear what Sean Spicer has to say about that. Okay. So back to the whole ceasefire, that I don't think it's going to hold, but we'll see how it is going, because now it's 6 years into this conflict in Syria that's been going on, and there's still kind of no end in sight. But if this ceasefire agreement holds up, and if they actually push back ISIS, and if the administration and the military industrial complex, and also the deep state, or whatever the hell you want to call that group, the intelligence wing of the government, if they decide that they don't want this peace and they're going to just flood more ISIS fighters and flood more of these free Syrian rebel fighters in there, basically to create more destabilization, which would push more ISIS members and more other radical groups in there to go fight. It'd create like a magnet. So we'll see if the entire government, Trump may be sincere, so is Tillerson, but there may be factions in the government that aren't sincere about this type of ceasefire, and it's not going to hold because someone's going to do something, and then they're going to flood more fighters into that area. So we'll see what happens with the ceasefire. Again, I hate to be so pessimistic, but everything with the war in Syria has just been horrible ever since in 2011, when it really started, and it was created off of the Arab Spring that was going on, the CIA-funded Arab Spring that was throwing all these dictators, and trying to put in some sort of other government, which, a lot of them, I'm really sure a lot of them started definitely as genuinely and organic, but like almost everything, it was co-opted, and a lot of them went downhill quick, especially, look at Egypt. It's not much better now than it was before. And like I said, I'm always hopeful that something will resolve this conflict, because once again, this conflict in Syria is a direct result from just decades of American and the Western military industrial complex of creating some sort of empire and just going in and creating these dictators, and then going in, and when the dictators aren't convenient for us, like Gaddafi or Saddam, we go in and then we destabilize them, put in another fake government, and that creates, or we fund terrorists, which create worse terrorists. So this what's going on is madness. So at least it looks good, and it is technically what we want, is a ceasefire. But is it legitimate? I don't think so, because you don't have Iran, you don't have Hezbollah, it was only really Jordan, you don't even have Israel signing on to this ceasefire. So, there's a lot of a lot of players on both sides who aren't signing on to this ceasefire. So, once again, it just kind of seems like lip service, but I'm really, really hopeful for the best. So we'll see, and maybe it will hold, and then maybe they could move the ceasefire to the entire country, because that's another thing about the media. They really were pushing this idea that, it's a ceasefire for the entire Syria, and this is a great, huge win for Trump. And Trump, of course, goes to Twitter and talking about, this is a great move, and we're going to move forward, and this is a big win. And it's like, whoa, calm down. You're out there tweeting about this, and the ceasefire hasn't even gone into effect yet. So just give it some time and just wait, because like I said, this horrible conflict, which is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people have died from this conflict in Syria since 2011, has created just waves of immigrants and refugees who've been pushed to other countries, and that's created other problems and escalated these other problems that we've talked about on this podcast before. The loss of the middle class, being able to scapegoat the refugees into that they're the problem because the loss of the middle class, because of the hollowing out of the economy by the top 1%, by the oligarchic class and by the corporations. And so you have people like Trump, and you have people like Marine Le Pen who can come up here and they can go and they could talk about how the immigrants are all the problems. They're creating the problems, when in reality, the immigrants and a lot of these refugees are just trying to get out of hell. They're just trying to survive, get their family, and just trying to survive and get out of there. Most of them, pretty much all of them. Of course, there's going to be a few ISIS cells, a few other radicalized cells that are going to sneak through the cracks. But you know what? That's called blowback. That's what happens when we go and fuck with other countries for 30 plus years, and then we get waves of refugees. There's gonna be pissed off fighters in that wave of refugees. What do? As countries, do we just not accept these flows of immigrants, or do we accept these flows of immigrants? Because no matter what you do, it's gonna have a negative and a positive outcome. If you don't take them, they're going to go back into their own country and die and create more terrorists, and the problem is going to get vastly worse. Or you take them into your country, and then you have a big problem of a nationalist pushback, as well as a problem with having these new immigrants and refugees assimilating into your culture. So it's both sides. It's both sides of the problem. When you have such a huge influx of new people into a society, it definitely takes a toll on the society. And all the people on the left who want to say, the nationalists on the right are just racist bigots and whatever. Well, yeah, not really. They kind of have a justified reason why they're afraid. Granted, their anger is totally wrong, and they shouldn't use the immigrants as a scapegoat, but it's understandable why they're angry. And then on the other side, the right shouldn't say, all the left are pussies and they want to bring in all these rapists to rape our women. And no, that's not fucking true for the people on the right saying that. It's not true. The people on the left have compassion, and they feel bad, and they understand that our wars for the Western society has created this problem. So see, both sides just need to chill out with the rhetoric, and we need to look at what's actually going on and how we could fix this problem that's been brewing for 6 years now, like almost 6 years. And there's hundreds of thousands of people who have been killed, millions of people who have been displaced, and it's not getting better anytime soon. And our military industrial complex is just continuously profiting off of this problem, and that's really just immoral and disgusting. So I'm gonna wrap it up. This is Punk Rock and Politics, and this is Open Mic's last call. We'll check you out next Tuesday. Have a good one. Peace out. Thanks for checking out Punk Rock and Politics. If you enjoyed the show and the information brought to you, please subscribe and share the podcast. It helps us here at Punk Rock and Politics, but more importantly, it helps the featured bands gain exposure. Also, if you know any bands or musicians who would like to join the political mosh pit and have their music featured on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast, please email us at punkrockandpolitics@gmail.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. And rock on, political junkies.
I think our society is run by insane people for insane objectives.
Doing a better job of talking to each other. The left hand now knows what the right hand is doing.
Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.